He began life with a name none would praise. He lived like a shadow. He laughed at kings. He broke the law and bent the forest to his will. And yet, centuries later, his words would shape a civilization. How does a thief become the voice that teaches kings to be humble? The forest was a world apart, a place of crooked paths, a place where men who had nowhere else to go made their fate by force. There, a man named Ratnakar earned his bread with the blade of surprise. He robbed, he lied, he ruled the road. But there was more to him than the ferocity everyone saw. He kept a secret burden. A question gnawed at him every night. Who made the law? He stole to feed a family. He stole because the world had taught him to survive. Still, inside, a restless voice waited. It asked for something larger than fear. They called him robber. They named his deeds, but they did not know his heart. And then, one day, that heart met a voice it could not ignore. But what happened next changed everything. He met a sage, not on a throne, not in a hall, in the hush of dawn. A lone figure in ragged cloth, a man who smelled of incense and silence. Valmiki, not yet a poet, would later be known for a name that meant anthill, a strange nickname born from a moment of grief. But this moment came before fame. Ratnakar had a choice: robbery or conversation. The sage asked a single simple question: for whom do you steal? The question was surgical. It cut. Ratnakar answered without thought. For my family. The sage asked, will they share the sin with you? Ratnakar's answer cracked. He had never been asked to reckon like this. He went home and asked the mouths he fed, would you share my guilt? He expected love. He expected loyalty. Instead, he heard silence. They shrugged. They named comforts. They named excuses. They would not bear his burden. And in that refusal was the beginning of his undoing and the beginning of his becoming. But what happened next changed everything. He could have doubled down. He could have hardened his hand and his heart. Instead, Ratnakar sought the sage again. Tell me how to wash my sin, he demanded. The sage taught him one thing: the power of a single truth. Confession. Speak your crime. Own it. Repeat the truth until it changes you. So Ratnakar began to speak. He sat at the root of a tree and said aloud every theft, every lie, every wound. He said each name he had ever stolen from the world. The words burned like winter. They carved a new shape into him. Days passed. Seasons shifted. Speech became penance. Speech became metamorphosis. Others came. They mocked at first. Then they watched. Then something impossible happened. His tongue grew a new weapon, a song. His voice turned the accusation into a story. By telling the truth, he unmade himself. He became someone who listened to sorrow as if it was scripture. But what happened next changed everything. Pain lit a strange light inside him. He saw kings and courtiers. He saw violence cloaked as law. He saw a world that used names to protect itself. He began to shape the stories he had heard into lines. First a few verses, then a river of words. The forest listened. The river was recorded. The deer paused. His poem struck like a mirror. People who had never felt remorse felt it. Those who had power felt threatened. Rumor traveled faster than arrows. "You mean the robber writes?" they whispered. "The robber who repented?" A new identity carried him farther than any plunder ever had. His name, Valmiki, took root, strange as an anthill after rain. A creation made from a lifetime of thrown stones and contrition. But what happened next changed everything. Into his hands came a tale. Not his tale alone, but the tale of a prince, a forest, an exile, and a love that refused to bow. He saw Rama, not as legend, but as a mirror of duty. He saw dharma crack under temptation. He saw devotion stand like a pillar. Valmiki shaped grief into rhythm. He forged memories into line. The verses were precise, each syllable a footstep, each image a world. The epic grew, then tumbled into the world like a blazing comet. Some called it blasphemy, others called it revelation. It did not matter. The poem did what poems do. It changed the way people saw the world. It asked questions. What is loyalty when the one you love must leave? What is duty when it costs everything? And Valmiki, once a robber of coins, now stole attention, then hearts. But what happened next changed everything. The world demanded an answer. A king might rewrite a story to suit himself. A broker might buy silence. A warrior might erase a poet. Valmiki did none of these. He placed his poem down before the people like a mirror. Rama stepped from within the lines. He was mortal and divine at once. The poem confronted kings and beggars alike with a single claim: there are truths no power can bury. Valmiki had become a bridge. A man who had stolen now taught how to keep. A man forged by guilt taught how to live with honor. And in the hush that followed his verses, an entire culture heard itself anew. This was the destiny no one had planned for him. A thief, a poet, a teacher, a voice that lasted longer than armies. But what happened next changed everything. Think of Valmiki as proof that identity is not a chain. It is a riverbed. It can be scoured and reshaped. A life of violence can yield a life of wisdom. A single honest voice can recompose the world's memory. And the lesson is simple and terrible and tender. Our next word can undo our past. What will your next word be? He was a robber. He became a poet. He left us a question we still cannot answer without listening. Who are we when we finally tell the truth?